World Chess Championship game number 5. We have some excitement in this one. Gukesh with the white pieces, Ding with the black pieces. E4 again by Gukesh, like we saw in game number 1. French defense by Ding Liren, like we saw in game number 1. D4, D5. And now we see E takes D5 by Gukesh. He decides to play the exchange French, which typically has 0 chance of winning. The exchange French is one of the most boring openings in chess. This game is not boring, though. This game's an exception. So he must have had something cooked up between round 1 and round 5 that he was going to use to surprise Ding Liren. But you know Ding Liren has probably spent months prepping the French defense with his team. So what are we going to see here? Knight f3, knight f6, bishop d3, c5. This is the 5th most popular move, but recently it's been a bit trendy. It's probably the 2nd most popular move recently, so not a huge surprise. c3, c4. A little bit rare, but we're still following over 100 games from the master database, and Gukesh is still playing his moves quickly. Bishop d6, queen e2 check. And this is interesting. Gukesh is the one offering the queen trade, and typically it's been Ding Liren's strategy. It seems to take Gukesh into the endgame, but Gukesh is offering the queen trade now. Castle rook e8, rook e1 check, king f8, trade rooks, king takes. And I think Ding should be happy with this position. There is probably a 0.1 advantage for white, for Gukesh, just a micro advantage. And the reason for that is the weakest pawn on the board is most likely that pawn on d5. But the nice thing for Ding is the pawn on d5 is not easily attacked. How is that pawn going to be attacked? It's going to take either a knight sitting somewhere like e3, or this light square bishop either getting to b3, maybe with a pawn trade, or rerouting over to f3 and attacking on this diagonal. But currently, this pawn is not easy to attack. Bishop g5. Now, this is a big deal. It's threatening to take and double the pawns. That would be a big advantage for Gukesh. Those are ugly doubled pawns here. Also, the knight on f6 guards this pawn. So yeah, we have to deal with that threat. Knight b to d2. And one advantage that Gukesh has here is the slow development by black's queen side, right? That bishop on c8 has to move, and then the rook on a8 has to move, whereas Gukesh has pretty fluid development with the rook coming to e1 soon. Now, this is the first long think of the game. Pawn to h6 by Ding. I love this move. It was a 33-minute think, but this is a way for Ding to try to play for the initiative. You can kind of sense that Gukesh hasn't played for much with the white pieces in this game. Going for the French exchange, he doesn't really have anything special prepped for this c5, c4 setup by black. Now after h6, there's this idea by Ding where he could potentially play g5 at some point, knight h5, maybe knight f4, and you start to see Ding's forces coming down the board towards Gukesh. It might be a little something. And then also this pawn on c4, even though it creates the potential weakness on d5, this pawn is pretty far advanced. And in an endgame, sometimes that can lead to a passed pawn or a pawn that threatens to promote. So that's something that Ding has in his back pocket. You know, picture this knight coming to b6 and out to a4, attacking these white pawns. So keep this pawn on c4 in mind too. Knight to h5, nice idea. Again, looking at this and this. Rook to e1 check. The king moves. Pawn to g4. Now, I'm not in love with this move, but the computer is okay with it. This is another Gukesh aggressive push the pawn move. He loves these type of moves. He doesn't want to just sit back and wait for Ding to do something, but it does open up these squares around the white king. This pawn's a little loose now. It's undefended. The bishop is lined up with it. You know, weakens the knight slightly. If a black piece lands on f4, there's no pawn to g3 ever to kick it. So this is just not a move that I would play, but it's Gukesh's style. The computer is okay with this move, and we're in equal territory right now. Knight f4, bishop g3, knight to b6. Here comes that knight. And now black is threatening bishop takes g4 and ready to bring the rook in soon. So to me, this is feeling good for black. Pawn to g5, that's the best move to take care of that weakness. There wasn't a great way to defend the pawn on g4. Takes, takes. Bishop d7, one piece left to develop. Knight back to f3, rook to e8. So Ding decided in this position the rooks don't really help him. If anything, that rook on e1 was doing a good job for white because it's not only controlling the open file previously, but it's also protecting against knight to e2 check. So I think good decision by Ding. Let's get rid of those rooks. Knight e5, bishop takes, and now we see the first mistake of the game by Gukesh D, and he played it instantly. I don't know why he played this move so quickly. He still had 53 minutes on the clock, and Ding had 47. We're at move 23, so he had 17 moves left to get to the bonus time at move 40, but he instantly snapped out this recapture. D takes e5. And I didn't watch the post-game press conference. I don't know what he missed here, but Gukesh finds the best move, knight to d3, and this holds pretty significant advantage. We're looking at like a minus 0.8, minus 0.9 for black, according to the computer. So it's not quite that -2 sort of winning threshold with best play, but this is the territory where it's like, okay, Ding should probably never lose, and he might have 40% chance to win this game, 30-40% chance if he really presses. Yeah, knight d3. So here's the issue for white. This pawn is double attacked on e5. This pawn on b2 is also attacked. So if Gukesh plays rook to b1, then the knight captures here, and Ding goes up a pawn. The only other option is bishop takes d3, and after c takes d3, this is a passed pawn with the knight coming into c4 next, and it's not easy to get that passed pawn back. So this is an advantage for Ding. I really don't know what Gukesh missed here, because he could have played rook takes, and after rook takes, pawn takes, knight d3, and now when this trade happens, there's pawn to b3. And this position is different. This is equal. But after d takes e5, knight d3, takes, if pawn to b3 is played now, the problem is rook to c8. Now black has this initiative again. Rook to c1 fails to pawn to d4. This pawn is pinned. And knight to b1 puts the knight on such a bad square, and now black can play bishop to g4 and sink that bishop into e2. So Gukesh missed something there, and it might have been this idea of rook c8 by Ding, but essentially, with the rooks on the board, this is I would say a clearly better position for black, or a much better position for black. Not quite winning, but with the rooks off the board, rook takes e5, we're back in draw territory. All right, so what does Ding do? Knight d3, takes. And now we see pawn to f3 by Gukesh. Knight to c4, hitting the knight, hitting the pawn. So essentially Gukesh has to trade, takes. And now we see a protected pass pawn. This is a big advantage. The d pawn is defended by the c pawn for black. Rook to e4, hitting this pawn. And we have 42 minutes for Ding, 35 minutes for Gukesh. Move 27. And now we see bishop to c6 by Ding. Now, I did read in a post-game thread on Reddit that Ding said he didn't realize how big his advantage was. So I didn't watch the post-game press conference, but I read this online. Ding did not realize how big his advantage was. He is playing actively here, which in general is a good strategy, right? Keep your pieces active. He's attacking f3. But the problem is he's going to trade the pawn on c4 for the pawn on f3. And that means this passed pawn on d3 is no longer defended by his buddy on c4, and it's not a protected pass pawn. This kills the winning chances for Ding Liren. What he needed to play here was bishop to e6, and after a move like rook d4, rook to c8, and then slowly start to go to work. Maybe push these pawns, maybe play f6 at the right point, try to get the king in. It's not winning yet, but the computer is still giving this a minus 0.8 or a minus 0.9. This was very good chances for Ding to play for the win. You know, it might still be in that 30% chance to win, but Ding should never lose this. And this, in a world championship match with the black pieces, you have to take your chances if you're Ding. And outside of game one, it hasn't felt like Ding has that killer edge. When he has a position where he has a chance to play for the win, he's really not pressing very hard. And this was a big missed opportunity. So playing bishop c6, I think he's actually thinking here, I'm okay with a draw. Oops, sorry, let me go back. Right here, bishop c6. He's thinking, I'm okay with a draw. Because look what happens. Rook d4, takes f3, king attacks the bishop moves, rook takes c4, and this king is so close to the pawn that the pawn can't be defended. Rook d8, rook d4, takes, opposite colored bishops, That's a draw offer. The d3 pawn is going to be captured. Ding is actually going to be down a pawn. So he just went from a position where he had a chance to play for the win to being down a pawn and saying, yes, I can hold this 100% of the time down a pawn with opposite colored bishops. He just agreed to a draw. All right, so bishop d5, b3, kings come up, takes the pawn, they shuffle, draw agreed. All right, so I got to head to pickleball practice. I'm a little disappointed by Ding Liren's play here. I think he did a good job getting that advantage, but just he immediately let that advantage go. Didn't even play for the win. If you're interested in the French defense, check out our website, chessgoals.com. We have a French defense quick start course and a full French defense course, which is about 100 lines. It's meant for club level players, easy to learn. We have a Chess Goals community. Link in the description, chessgoals.com. I will see you for the recaps on all the other games. Thank you for watching.